Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Damron. We're playing Elder Scrolls Online. We're doing the new Flames of Ambition DLC, specifically Black Drake Villa, which is one of the new 4-player dungeons that's located in the northern part of Gold Coast. This is going to be on veteran difficulty. This particular video, we're going to cover how to unlock the secret boss at the end of this dungeon, which is a really cool dungeon because each boss in this dungeon has its own hard mode difficulty, which is unique. And there's also a new special boss, secret boss at the end of the dungeon. So keep in mind the speed run challenges, the no death run challenges don't incorporate these secret bosses. So the time and the no death, actually you'll see in this video, we unlock Unhinged, which is to beat veteran Black Drake without dying. And you unlock that prior to the boss, the final secret boss fight. If you haven't seen any of my guides before, I do keep these as complete complete playthroughs, so you'll see the entirety of the dungeon. I will fast forward through the trash mobs and the ads in order to speed it up. We're mainly going to be talking about boss mechanics, but as we're fast forwarding through this first kind of set of mobs here, let's just touch base a little bit about the lore of Black Drake Villa, which isn't really that deep per se, but essentially it's an abandoned villa that was actually a retreat for one of the former emperors, the Black Drake, known as, he was the Emperor Durkorak, or however you say it, I'm not really sure, but essentially under his villa he had a very large library that was pillaged books that held knowledge about all of the history of Tamriel that was pillaged on his behalf. Well, Aveli Sharp Arrow, who's the one that kind of brings you into this Black Drake Villa, she's essentially a thief, I guess, but she was hired by someone we don't know who it was in order to collect a valuable book, and she wants you to come in and help her collect this. And she says you can take any of the plunders that come with us finding this book. So we're essentially heading into this burning library in order to find that. So once you've cleared out the first courtyard of all of the ads, now we can step on the 4 pressure plates that are needed to unlock the first of 3 side bosses, and then of course there's the final secret boss, and you need to do all of these in order to get to that final secret boss. So in the northern portion, actually right near the entrance of this courtyard, in the northern portion is the first pressure plate, and then in the southern kind of middle of the courtyard, you don't have to jump over this pillar here, you can come from the other side too, but you can see in this walkway leading up to that door, you can't enter that, is the second pressure plate. And then heading up the way you're supposed to go, you normally go up these stairs and you'll progress on as you go up the stairs. Before you do that, go to the right hand side for our third pressure plate, and then I'll show you the fourth one. After he steps on it, we'll make our way over there and I'll show you exactly where that is, which is on the kind of north side as well. So it's really kind of the 4 corners, right? Northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest, and they all need to be stood on at the same exact time. And when you see it kind of freeze like that and become iced over, that means you've successfully done it, and you can progress on to the first side boss of Black Drake Villa. And the fourth location, again, as we go to the northeastern side through that little walkway, is right here by the stairs. So all 4 players stand on that, and again, we'll swap back over now. Once that is all done, this entrance up here will open, and now we can drop down here and we're going to fight our first side boss, really the first boss actually of Black Drake Villa, which is the Avatar of Zeal. And when you move into all of these side boss locations, what you're going to see is this pillar in the back, and essentially it's an avatar fragment, and anyone can interact with it. You just have to press A or whatever you set your interact button to on that, and it's going to spawn the side boss, which in this case is the Avatar of Zeal, which is a pretty easy fight. All of the side bosses are actually very easy. So the Avatar of Zeal is basically an Indrik, and he does some similar attacks to the Indrik that we saw on March of Sacrifices. So here's one right here. You can see this AoE that's sitting on the tank there. Okay, that is the Ice Vortex. That Ice Vortex basically creates an AoE around that player, and it basically emits a burst of damage from that player. So as long as that player stays away from everybody else, it's not going to hurt that much. Obviously, it also has the Indrik Outburst, which is going to launch a shadow spectral form of itself just forward. Right there, you see that. As long as you sidestep that, you're not going to take much damage. It also teleports around the map, and it also has a frost beam that will basically target the tank and then anybody that's in direct line of the tank. So as long as the tank keeps the Indrik facing away from everybody else, you don't really have to worry about that frost beam. But you see how fast we bursted it down. It's a very easy fight. you don't have to worry about it. But what it's going to give you is the Echo of Zeal, and that's going to start our journey in order to getting all of the Echo fragments so that we can fight the final secret boss of this dungeon. Also, beating the Avatar of Zeal is going to give you increased weapon and spell damage by 50, and for every Avatar fragment we find, we're going to add 10 to that. So by the end of the dungeon, you can actually have 350 increased weapon and spell damage, which is critical if we're going to be doing this on hard mode. Again, I have that video coming. I've got the hard modes of all the bosses done. I'll show that, and we will touch base on a different video. We're just doing the normal veteran version of these bosses in this video and showing you how to get to the secret boss himself. Now, we want to touch base a little bit about these Avatar fragments that we have to find, because you see there are these little floating kind of white, Avatar fragments, I guess, around, but they can be anywhere on the map. They're not set in stone on where they're going to be. It's a little bit random. There are some things that are going to be the same always, right? The side bosses are always going to drop 2 of them, and the main bosses are always going to drop 4 of them. So what you want to do is go into your character sheet, and if you go down to your Echo of Zeal, you're going to see how many fragments you have. So you see right here, I'm going to pause it. It says Avatar fragments boost the effect, 3 Avatar fragments collected. What you want to do as you're progressing through this dungeon is to make sure everybody has the same amount of fragments before you advance into the next section, because you all should have the same amount of fragments, and that's how you know you have all of the random ones. So we're moving into the first main boss of the dungeon, which is the Minotaur Kinras Ironeye. He's not really that difficult. He does a few attacks that we need to keep an eye out for. So right there, you just see his normal kind of melee attack, which he slams down. And when he slams, it creates a little inflamed earth in its wake. So you can see that, but it doesn't really do a lot of damage. Another thing he'll do is he'll put these fiery totems on the ground, and this totem does a little bit of, fire damage to every player. It'll just shoot these little fireballs. You just want to take that out as soon as possible. It's extra DPS that you don't want to worry about. The main kind of mechanic about this fight are these blazing salamanders. Now, the salamanders have like a heavy tail attack that can do some damage, but the main thing about them is actually that blazing salamander aura that is around them. If that aura encompasses the boss, you actually won't be able to do damage to the boss. But because we've got this first, secret boss, we now have the ability to become an ice avatar, which is that octagon on the top right that you saw. So I'm actually an ice avatar. And when you do normal damage to these salamanders as the avatar, you'll actually turn their blazing aura of protection into a damage afflicting aura that will actually damage anything that it touches, because you've made it ice per se. It also, you give the ultimate ability as the icy avatar to use whiteout, and that will freeze anything, including the boss. So that's a very effective way, and you'll see when we do the hard mode, it's almost critical that you have it, because you can freeze everything. The shout that he's doing there is a shout that brings the salamanders closer to him. As I mentioned, if the salamander's aura encompasses him during the fight, he'll actually be invulnerable until you take out the salamander. So the main mechanic in that fight is to make sure that DPS is bursting down the totem and bursting down the salamanders. As long as you do that, and the tank is maintaining focus of Kinras himself, you don't really have to worry too much about his attacks. His Wake of Fire, his Inflamed Earth are really going to be targeting that tank, and you guys don't really need to worry about that. And as always, after you finish that, you can check your character sheet and make sure everybody in the game has the same avatar fragments going forward. So let's kind of advance this. We're going to collect our fragments. We're going to kill some ads, and I'll see you in the next portion that I'm going to be talking about is the next puzzle that's going to lead us to our second secret boss. Alright, so once we've gotten to this room here and we've kind of cleaned out all these ads, before we go through the door, you'll notice stairs to your right and your left. If you go up there, there's going to be 2 levers on each side. It's exactly the same on the other side. And essentially, you want to pull all these levers at the same time. And once you do that, it doesn't have to be perfect. So you can see he pulled it a little bit late, but it's still going to open this gate behind us. And once that gate is open, now you're going to go up here. And again, like I mentioned, it's the same exact on the other side. So you're doing this on both sides. And if you come up here, you're going to find these fiery books that we talked about in the lore, right? All this is burning. You're going to have 2 fiery book locations with more pressure plates that you need to stand on all at the same time. And once you do that, there's going to be an orb that you can use your synergy on and bring it down here. So there's going to be 2 that are already lit, and you can see this one right here is not. They have grabbed their orb, you bring it to the cauldron, and once all 4 are lit, the ground will disappear, and we'll be able to make our way into the second secret boss of this dungeon, the Avatar of Vigor. And the Avatar of Vigor, once we kill this one, we'll get the Echo of Vigor, which will increase your stamina and your magic recovery by 200, and each Avatar Fragment will increase that further, and you can get that all the way to 500 if you collect your 30 fragments. So once you interact with the artifact back there, the Avatar of Vigor will spawn, and this is a super easy fight. It's almost not even like a boss. It's just like a little ad, essentially. Doesn't have much health. There's only 2 attacks that you really need to worry about. One is a heavy attack. It can cause a lot of damage, but like if you have a good tank, you don't really need to worry about it. The tank does want to have the Avatar of Vigor facing away from everybody else. I'm kind of approaching the cusp here, but as long as you're not in front of her, you'll avoid that heavy attack. The only other attack that it does was the geysers, which you saw only happened once in that fight. You'll get a little AoE on the ground, and that's going to indicate that geysers are about to come up. As long as you're not just standing in the geyser for the entirety of the geyser damage phase, again, you don't really have to worry about it, and it's easily avoidable. And it's a good time to mention, guys, if you're kind of new to veteran style dungeons, I highly recommend you turning your enemy AoE indicators to bright pink. There's not a lot in this game that's bright pink, and it'll help you have those enemy AoEs and enemy attacks stand out on your screen, especially on levels like this where there's a lot of red, a lot of fire. This, Bloodroot Forge, other dungeons and trials that have a lot of fire mechanics, the normal red AoE indicator can be kind of challenging to see. So I always highly recommend you change that. It's much easier to see. So you see on my screen, these indicators are super pink and they can't be missed. So let's smash through some more ads and we'll see you at the next boss.
I'm here. What I miss? Their leader said he's after the book. We need to find it before he does. Up here! Look at this journal I just found. I can help a lot. I saw that book murder just ahead. Keep going.
Alright, so once we get to this room here and we've kind of cleared out the ads, you're going to have this gate back here. You're normally supposed to go through those 2 large wooden doors, but to the left and the right of the gate are levers that we can push. And once that gate opens, 2 people again are going to head to their left and 2 people are going to head to the right. And it's identical on both sides. One player is going to have to walk to the back of this walkway and step on this pressure plate. And then you can see my teammate up there. There are 4 symbols. It looks like the D-pad right on a controller with a left, right, and up. And on the floor, you see 2 statues. One is kind of whitish silver, the other is orangish red. And you can see the symbols on the right, the one mine are interacting with are orangish red, and the left ones were kind of that silver color. So that tells you which statue goes with which controller, essentially. And you need to use those buttons to get these statues onto those glowing platforms on the ground. Once you do that, the gate standing beside the pressure plate will open. You're going to be able to grab this orb off of the cauldron and then bring it down here. There's 2 empty cauldrons to place these in. I was like, where is it? Why can't I find it right now? But they're right here in front of this bookcase. And once you place both of them, the bookcase will disappear and we'll be able to head to our 3rd secret boss of this dungeon. And again, as I mentioned, if you want to do the final secret boss, you must do all of these secret bosses in order to get all of the avatar fragments that are needed to unlock him. So as always, let's interact with this artifact back here, and we're going to spawn the avatar of Fortitude, which again is a very easy side boss. Super easy. You don't really have to worry about too much. He's got the heavy attack, which does cause a lot of damage, but the tank can simply block that. He's also kind of charging up here, and what he's going to do at the end of that charge is essentially shoot projectiles at everybody, and it shoots projectiles at the entire party. So everybody needs to block it or dodge roll it, whatever you want to do, because that damage will actually stack upon each other depending how many players are hit with the projectile. But as you can see, he's really easy to kill. I mean, he just stands there. Those are the only two attacks that you need to worry about. And honestly, super easy. If you guys are going to beat this on veteran, that boss right there is not going to give you any trouble. And as always, be sure you grab the 2 avatar fragments before we leave. And then we're ready to fight the next boss as we go into the rotunda, into this nice circular arena. And we are going to be fighting our next boss in the arena, Captain Geminus. And he's not too bad. It does take a little bit of while. He's got 4.5 million health on normal veteran difficulty. And the boss mechanics, you know, it can seem like a lot when you first start, but I'm going to try to break it down, make it pretty simple for you. So first, just the 2 things she tossed out. You can see she does have a trap that she throws out, an incapacitating trap. Just don't stand in that. Obviously, if you do, it can incapacitate you. She also has a cyclone shot, which shoots out those lightning orbs that you saw. If you get hit by that, it does put a little dot on you. Another thing that she's going to cast is the Shade of Geminus, as well as an Air Atronach. Whenever she gets around 70% and 30%, she'll go to the center, she'll create a shield, and she'll create this Air Atronach, which you definitely want to take down as quickly as possible. The tank can come over here and, you know, mitigate the damage from everybody else, but it doesn't have a lot of health, and you definitely want to take that down as quick as possible and then return your DPS to Captain Geminus herself. She'll also spawn in every once in a while the True Sworn Flame Hounds. Now the Flame Hounds can cause a lot of damage. I highly recommend if you see them, you take them out as quickly as possible. The good thing about them is with our ability to use the ice, you know, turn into the Icy Atronach with our, you know, secret boss, and again that octagon right there, you can just have a player interact with that and freeze those hounds and kill them pretty quickly. Now the Shade of Geminus that spawn, again, she'll summon up to 4 of those, and they'll start channeling. You'll see that kind of, you know, they're almost charging up where you need to interrupt them. While they're doing that, a certain player that's connected to that channeled Shade Geminus will have an AoE that's growing around them, and if you don't interrupt them before or kill them before that AoE completes, that's going to do a lot of damage to you. So again, we hit that 30% phase. Now we've got another Air Atronach. You want to burn that down, and while she's in the center, she's invulnerable and spewing out all of this, you know, flames kind of going in all directions. And this is, you know, can be when it gets a little bit chaotic, because now we've got the Flame Hounds in, and now we've got the Air Atronachs. She's shielded and shooting the flames in all directions. This is the best time for you to use that Ice Atronach Whiteout ability, okay, if you have it. And one thing about that people don't realize, in order to use that, you do have to have 150 ultimate. If you have 150 ultimate, you can go get on that platform and turn in to that Icy Atronach and just kind of burn everything that way. So it's really helpful, especially when we enter the hard mode, to use that. You know, again, this isn't the hard mode version of this boss, this is the normal version. But you can see now that we've got her down to execute, you definitely want to burn her down. I said, you know, when the Flame Atronach hounds are there, not the Atronach, but when the Flame Hounds are there, you want to focus those. But once you get her to execute, you can kind of let them be a little bit and just kind of clean her up and finish that fight off. So that's a lot. I talked about a lot in a little amount of time, and I know that because there's a lot of different mechanics in that fight. But if you kind of follow the rules that I was showing you there, right? Take down the Flame Hounds if you see them. Shade Geminus needs to be interrupted. Take out the Air Atronach. Those are priority over doing damage to Captain Geminus herself. As long as you do that, you don't have to worry about it. The only other thing she has is actually a Death Wish debuff, and you know, you can't really show that, but if you're watching your stat screen, every once in a while you may get a debuff from her that causes you to take increased damage. So that's it for her. We're going to clean up the ads in the next section. Again, be sure you collecting all of your avatar fragments. This is the final ad section before we head to, quote, the final boss of this level. I had to cut here. Our tank had to take a little bit of a break. So going forward, but this is the, quote, final boss. Again, if you're just trying to complete the dungeon and you're not necessarily trying to do the secret boss, we are rolling up on the final boss. And then after that, I'll show you how to unlock the final secret boss of this dungeon. So before you kind of go into this final door here, as I've mentioned several times throughout this dungeon, now is the time to check your avatar fragment count. Go into your character sheet, go to that Echo of Zeal, look at your, your avatar fragment count, and everybody should be around the same at this point. You should have 25 fragments, and as long as everybody has 25 fragments, you're right now. If you missed one, now's the time to go back. You really don't want to have to run all the way back through this dungeon. That's why I recommend kind of checking this throughout. And once everybody has enough, we're ready to go into the walled arboretum and fight the Pyroturge Encratis himself. Might be saying that right. I don't know. It sounds good. Anyway, so let's talk about his mechanics. He's going to do a couple of things on this first phase. There are two phases to this fight. One is Racing Inferno. Basically, he shoots out these snakes. You can see him kind of wiggling along the ground there. It's basically a conical attack. As long as the tank is facing him, everyone's standing in the other direction, you don't really need to worry about it. He also does an immolation sphere here, which he surrounds himself with fire, and that does a lot of damage if you're just standing in it. He also summons some ghosts when he summons that ability, but if you turn yourself into the ice avatar and use whiteout, it'll actually kill all of them instantaneously. But this is pretty quick. Once you get him around 60% health, 65% health, he's going to break the wall behind him, and we're going to start the next phase. He could also actually turn this entire room into flames, and he'll just have like a safe zone around him. So you may also see that. If he does that, just stay close to him and avoid it. We burned him down pretty quick, so you didn't see that, but you'll notice if it happens to you. But once he breaks the wall, we're going to enter the second phase of this fight, in which he's going to be able to do all of the same mechanics plus a couple extra ones. So you saw right there, he did the immolation sphere, which again created that fire around him, summoned some ghosts, which are easy to kill without the whiteout. They don't have a lot of health, so if you just want to DPS them down, feel free to do that. But what he's going to do in here, right, is he's going to turn the entire top arena into flame, and you cannot stand in that. But there'll be an area of safe zone up on the top, which I missed there, but you can use these geysers to get up here. And a lot of the times he's also going to have summoned a behemoth with him, and you need to take that guy out because that does a lot of damage. Okay, so you want to be able to focus that down. I'm actually focusing on the boss here because his flames are kind of in my way. I should have been taking the big guy down a little bit faster. All right, so again, he's created his immolation sphere here. We can, stand out of this. Something that people actually haven't mentioned and don't know a lot about is if you use the whiteout, if you actually collect the ice avatar ability when he turns the entire top deck to flames, and you jump up into that little eye of the storm, so to speak, where he and the behemoth are, and use the whiteout, you'll actually freeze the entire top deck, and that entire ability will be negated. All right, so that's awesome. So again, you can see this area of safety that's up near him. Even though the top is on fire, we're just going to come up here and continue the fight. If you don't come up here, you're going to be down in the middle and you're going to have some salamanders to deal with. But there's just really no reason to even do that. just kind of get up here into the Eye of the Storm and keep your DPS onto Pyroturge himself, and that way we don't really have to deal with the salamanders, and we can finish this fight quicker. So as you can see, this fight is very easy. The mechanics aren't too bad. This is a very simple boss for a DLC veteran dungeon. Not bad at all. Very easy. That right there, unsinged, again, a no death run. As I mentioned earlier in the very beginning, the time challenges, the no death challenges do not incorporate this final secret boss, so don't worry about that. Okay, you can do everything other than this final boss. You don't even have to do those side bosses. Those are not included in the time and no death challenges. But once you kill Pyroturge himself, now we're finally ready to see this secret boss. And if you go up behind the top layer, you'll find this path that leads to this avatar artifact, and all of those 30 fragments that you had can now be put into that artifact. And if each player puts 30 fragments in, you will then summon the final secret boss of this level, Sentinel Aksalaz. Now, another unique thing about this secret fight is, one, you're only going to have limited attempts at this. There's no achievement tied to it. There's nothing else tied to it, but there is a special memento that you can get that is tied to this fight. You're not guaranteed to get it, but you have a chance to get it. But you only have, I think it's 5 tries. Some people say 6, but I swear he counts down from 5. But it might be 5, it might be 6. I'm not sure, but it's either 5 or 6. And after that 5th or 6th try, he leaves, and you would have to do this entire dungeon again. The other thing about this secret boss that is unique is that he doesn't have a hard mode that you can activate. If you do the final boss of this dungeon on hard mode difficulty, Sentinel Aksalaz will automatically be in hard mode, in which he has significantly more health and other things. And again, we'll cover that in the hard mode guide. So for now, if you do the final boss not on hard mode, but again just on veteran, you're going to fight Sentinel Aksalaz on his veteran difficulty, and he's not too bad. There's a few things that we need to worry about, and the first thing is he's going to summon those side bosses throughout the fight. Okay, he's going to summon at 85% the avatar of Zeal, which is going to have all of the same abilities that it had when we fought it earlier. So DPS, you definitely want to burst that down. At 60%, he's going to spawn the avatar of Vigor, and at 35, he's going to spawn the avatar of Fortitude. So all of those side bosses that we fought earlier are going to be brought into this fight. And you don't want to keep bursting the boss down when those avatars are in the realm. You want to take them out as quickly as possible. The most deadly attack that he can do is that right there, which is the Frost Nova. And what is going to happen is essentially the boss will start summoning tornadoes that move around the outer ring. Okay, and then he's going to have this large ice AoE that's going to spawn from the center and almost encompass the entire floor. So you have a very limited amount of room where you have to dodge the tornadoes and that AoE. That AoE will instantly kill you. Now he does have a heavy attack, the Axe Swing, that does a lot of damage. Boom, right there. Okay, as long as you got a good tank that can tank that, that's not too bad. The conical attack that he does, Ice Gash, you saw 3 kind of conical cone attack, ice attacks kind of going on the floor. Again, as long as the tank is tanking him facing away from everybody else, that shouldn't give you too much problems, okay? So now we're at that point, 60% where the avatar of Vigor is spawned, and we're just going to focus that down. But keep in mind, he's going to keep doing his attacks. And one of the things that you have to worry about with that center freezing ability that can kill you pretty quickly. So we lost our tank here because he got stuck and got hit instantly, all right? And it's very challenging if you lose your tank. We had to get him up, but somehow we survived that. So honestly, that's kind of one of the hardest mechanics of this fight, is paying attention to that, because he's doing that while you're fighting one of the avatars that come in. He's also going to spawn in some Frostkin, those little tiny ads. They don't do really hardly any damage. It's not bad at all. You can just kill them pretty quickly. The last kind of mechanic that's going to be going on during this fight is his icicles, which essentially are these icicles that spawn up on under your feet. And they'll basically follow you for a short period of time, and they spawn under the feet of all players. So you don't want to overlap each other when that's happening. Okay, so I think this is actually where I die. This is what's going to happen sometimes, because those pillars, there's not much room between the center and the wall where that AoE doesn't cover. And if you get stuck behind one of those pillars and the tornado hits you, it's going to throw you out to the middle. So that's actually what killed me there. So again, we hit that 35% I think phase where the avatar of Fortitude comes in. Again, doesn't do too much damage, but on top of everything else, again, focus him down. We got a Frostkin there, focus him down. And once you get into the execute phase, which you don't want to do until you've killed everybody else, ideally, you want to pull the boss to the middle. So there he was doing that icicle attack I was telling you about, where everything kind of comes up under you. You need to kind of keep moving. Those do a lot of damage. But once we enter execute phase, you're going to have 3 kind of phases. The outer rim's going to get covered, and then you're going to have an inner rim, and then the center. And if you don't get him killed by the time the center fills up, everybody will die. So it's kind of a DPS check. You do need to have enough DPS to take him down before he fills up the entire arena with that attack. Now, once you kill him, there'll be 2 chests to open, and you're going to have a chance at the Relic of Sentinel, which when you use in Black Drake Villa, all members gain Icy Vision, which reveals hidden treasures in the Black Drake Villa. So it's not guaranteed that you're going to get this, but you do have a chance to get it. And also, if you do it on hard mode, you're going to have an increased chance to get that relic as well. So keep that in mind, and I'll show a video that covers the hard mode of all the bosses. So let's look at the monster set that comes out of this dungeon, which is pretty cool. But it's going to be Encratis' Behemoth's Guise, and if you have 1 part of that set, you're going to have increased maximum magicka. Once you have 2, you're going to deal flame damage to an enemy, granting you, or when you deal flame damage, it grants you a Behemoth's aura for 12 seconds that reaches up to 12 meters, and you and up to 11 group members in the aura reduce flame damage taken by 5%, and enemies taken increased flame damage by 5%, which can occur every 15 seconds. So a pretty cool trial set, actually. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. That's going to be it for this dungeon. As always, if you like my stuff, feel free to like and subscribe. Hopefully, I'll see you around.